Every day of our lives, we Americans are encountering a form of sensitivity training or education. To understand this, think of yourself watching the news on television with your family or friends. Now consider the news commentator your group leader. He and his staff alone control what you will see from a single day's news events, and you are subject to his interpretation of these events. You are experiencing a form of coercive persuasion. If you reject the commentator's interpretation because of preconceived values, logic, or moral beliefs, you become subject to group criticism, and either you conform or you are branded an extremist. This thought control is the basis for the elusive middle-of-the-road philosophy, which means I'll accept anything that makes me safe from criticism. Television, with the ability to control the country's thoughts, can evoke an emotional response at will on any subject it wishes just by interpretation. How often have you seen a news event followed by a collective cry all over the country, there ought to be a law? And that's just what the government has done. Passed laws, and laws, and laws, and laws. What's happening is really very simple. In essence, it's the theory of the collectivist philosopher Hegel. Thesis, antithesis, to create synthesis. What does this mean to the average American? It means action and reaction to result in loss of liberty. For example, let's take a civil rights demonstration. The demonstration is the action or thesis. The outrage and indignation of the general public is the reaction or antithesis. When the public demands, why isn't something done, the laws that are passed by the federal government are the synthesis or the result of the action-reaction, which can result in the greater loss of liberty. For another example, let's take the problem of sexual promiscuity and venereal disease, which is the action. The concerned parent seeking an immediate solution reacts like most Americans and is convinced that sex education in the school is necessary to solve these problems. The result is the federal government dictating the morals of our youth. The ultimate result is that the parent relinquishes his responsibility to nurture the moral principles which are the prerequisite of a free society. The state can now legally dictate morals, a prime requirement for a totalitarian state. What about drugs? This creates the action. The reaction you've already seen. A blind acceptance of sensitivity training sessions conducted by ex-drug addicts. The result? The ability of government exploiters through sensitivity training for ultimate thought control of the mass. It's certainly no secret that the pills the youngsters are using come from Mexico, that the marijuana they're smoking comes in from Mexico, and that heroin, too, is coming in from Mexico. It would seem logical to cut off aid to Mexico until they clean up this mess, or subject people to search at the border, in the same fashion we do with people coming in from overseas. Instead, our president is now proposing a law which gives government the power to break into your house in the middle of the night, if they like, without a warrant. Student rebellions probably serve as the best example of action-reaction. If you talk with the radical students, they will tell you that they are rebelling against the establishment and that they are rebelling for freedom. In reality, they are creating an emotional reaction by the general public which demands federal laws to control the rebellious students. So these campus dissidents are destroying the very thing the students are trying to gain. The ironic factor is that many of these radical student leaders are self-confessed communists, and communism is the greatest living example of the totalitarian state the world has ever known. But for some reason, this double standard is swept under the table by the communications media, who wear flak jackets and helmets to cover the activities of the love children. The most obvious example of action-reaction is an assassination, the action. The reaction is, there ought to be a law. This results in a proposed solution of registration and final confiscation of all firearms in the United States. These things have little meaning by themselves, but put them all together, and they represent the makings of a total state, or a totalitarian state. The difference between our country and Nazi Germany, Communist Russia, or whatever these totalitarian states want to call themselves is simple. It is a matter of laws. The totalitarian state has thousands of laws to enforce the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Our country has very few laws because our country was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic, in God we trust, not in man we trust. Our forefathers designed a constitution based on individual self-restraint and based on the premise that government is to serve the people. Government powers were limited to protect the people from having evil men gain control of our nation by creating a strong central government. 2/3 of the world today is ruled by a handful of men who use two simple methods to keep the masses in line: fear and force. The force is justified by laws and works very simply. Step out of line and you are shot. Fear is less obvious. It is accomplished by sensitivity training, defined here by collectivist Harry Overstreet. It is perfect because the individual has no real life outside the several collectives to which he belongs. And within any one of these, he can at any time, without warning, have his future put in jeopardy by having some fellow member accuse him of some deviation from the approved norm of behavior. What is at issue now is not the offense itself, but rather the manner of his response to group criticism. He is on the spot, alone. Thus, there is set going one of the strangest and most potentially destructive rituals ever devised. The lesson we as Americans must learn from the rise to power of these dictators is that it was the conspiring of the rich and the intellectual elite that brought the dictator to power, not the people. In the name of the people, in the name of the common good, they justify their wars, atrocities, deception, and cunning. Today, in this country, we are being told we have a sick, bigoted, over-materialistic society, and that for the common good, the government must take on the responsibility to feed the poor, eliminate discrimination, educate the children on sex, ensure housing for minorities, regulate finance, provide medical care, finance sensitivity training, all in the name of the common good. Not too many years ago, a madman in Germany wrote a book called Mein Kampf, in which he told the world how, through the use of psychopolitics, now called sensitivity training, he could capture the minds of a generation of German youth, and with them, conquer the world. Nobody took him seriously. How many people today take seriously the anti-religious, humanistic forces at work in this country promoting sensitivity training? It took Hitler's youth informing on their parents to shock the world into realizing how successful were the ideas of this madman. But then it was too late. If the forces of evil are successful in this country, this child may never know freedom, may never know individualism. She may be in constant conflict with those who love and care for her. This child can be the tool to bring radical change to our form of government, to our family structure. Our Supreme Court has made it illegal to pray in the classroom. Rather, our young people are being educated about sex without morality, reaching for sensation without responsibility, so that when chaos is created by a handful of militants, they will react like animals. Or, if you will, when the stoplight goes out, it will be every man for himself. And out of the chaos that is created, the only thing that will restore order will be the inevitable police state.